I was really excited to be appointed to this church, and it was actually in January of 1991 that I began to feel anxious and other kinds of emotions that I did not understand. I was just overcome with despair, and I had all the symptoms of major depression, but didn't understand what was happening to me. I was tired, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, nothing brought me pleasure. I really struggled to perform my duties here at the church, and I felt so much despair that I even considered taking my own life. When I was hospitalized and was given the diagnosis at that time of major depression, I was really frightened because there's a lack of understanding about mental illness. I really feared for my job here at the church. I feared for my being able to continue here as a pastor, which was very important to me. And in fact, that is one of the things that kept me going through all this. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine. But I felt so ashamed myself that I couldn't deal with this. And because of the stigma associated with mental illness, especially in faith communities where it isn't talked about much, not only did I feel very alone and ashamed because I was in the hospital, I also did not receive the love and the care and the support that a person normally would get if they were going through a physical illness or a hard time in their life, a death in their family. So that makes it more isolating, and that isolation feeds on the whole sense of lack of worth. One in 4 persons sitting in the pews has a family member living with a mental illness. Yet the secrets are kept, they don't share it, because a lot of faith communities don't talk about mental illness. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. I think in some churches, mental illness is still seen as a sin, as a demon possession. There's a lot of views that are still held by many of the more conservative faith communities. It is seen as a moral or a spiritual failure instead of a treatable illness. After 2 years of suffering in silence, my family talked with my senior pastor. We wrote an open letter to the congregation called The Burden of Silence. And he wrote an accompanying article, and that was the beginning, really, of me speaking out about mental illness, the church being aware of mental illness. The next week, there was an information meeting called by our parish nurse with a turnaway crowd of over 130 people. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. Once you talk about it, it becomes a topic that can be addressed in the congregation. People will just come out of the woodwork, wanting to share their pain, their story, but the stigma that has held them back. There's a difference between curing and healing. And we know that people that are living with mental health challenges, there often is not a cure, but there can be healing. And that is the healing knowledge that they are supported and loved as they are by the congregation and by a loving God.